All right. Well, I have the ominous privilege of standing between all of you guys and the ivy, so I will try to be quick. I guess I first want to just comment, this is the first UnConvention that I've been to, and it certainly won't be the last. These events, for whether you learn anything from some of us standing up here and sharing what we think is unreal or not, these events for meeting, all the other guys that you will have met today are so valuable, and the energy and the passion that's in the room, and I think everyone's just about commented on it so far, and you go out into that hallway, you can't even hear yourself think when you go out there, and the breaks, it's just, so I think I guess want to acknowledge that Jack and the guys have put together an incredible event that I'll be coming back to, so well done guys. Quick story for a bit of irony. I was in China last week having dinner with a good friend of mine. This guy is like a big shot, I guess. He's head of global equity investments for a big US firm. They do something like 22 billion in revenue. Anyway, we're sitting down at dinner and we've become good mates over time, and I'm sort of chatting away. And the conversation turns to Thomas Duryea. I'm like, great, I get to tell him about how unreal I am. So he asks me how it's all going and that sort of thing. I say, yeah, we'll probably hit 60 million this year, and then next year maybe 70, 75, and then in 2-3 years we're going to hit $100 million. And I'm thinking he's going to applaud or something, and he's sitting there looking at me like I just told him we were going to shrink the business over the next couple of years. I'm like, what? He's like, he says, so Andrew, tell me about that fastest sustained growth period that you experienced and that you drove through your business. I said, it was 2006, I think, at that cusp there. We took the business from 3 million to 30 million in the space of 24 months. And he's looking at me, and he's right. So you're doing 3 million, and you managed to set a goal to do 10x growth over 24 months, and I assume you learnt something through that time. And now you're doing 50, and you're sitting here telling me that you're setting a goal to double the business? I'm like, but law of large numbers, it's hard and it's getting harder and all this. He's like, and this is why I tell this story, it's a bit of irony here. He looks at me across the table and he says, Andrew, you were unconventional in a conventional market. Just go and bloody well do it again. Anyway, so that's my little bit of irony. And he dead set meant it. He sat there and he said, you were unconventional. You worked out what it needed to be to do it then. Don't go and set the goal to double the business. Go and set the bigger goal, the real goal, and do the 10x growth again on 50. And it's a mindset shift, I can tell you, to start to think about the business is 50. I need to do 500 million to go back and have dinner with him again so that he's going to say, well done. And you can imagine what he'll say. So anyway, needless to say, I guess I won't sit here today and tell you about how to double your business, because apparently that'll be conventional and just bloody boring. I'll try to draw on maybe some of the lessons that I learned, some of the challenges, I guess, and some of the different, tool sets we implemented and the things we did when we took on that fast growth period. And I'll draw on a few other experiences in different businesses and that sort of thing. But I'll try very much to just share, whatever I can about that fast growth period and what we did during that time to achieve the 10x growth that my mate seemed to think was so exciting compared to just doubling the business. Excuse me that I'm turning away there. So taking it all back, and I know there's a few uni students in the room here today, so winding it right back for me, I first met Evan Duryea, the namesake in TD, one of the important 4 partners in the business, way back in uni. It was actually because I didn't go to uni that I met Evan. I was supposed to be in an electronics lab, and I was down fishing, which I often enjoyed doing instead of going to university. I was down fishing anyway. Somehow the electronics tutor knew this, and he's about to set up this project, and you need to pair up, and he says, so who wants to partner with the guy that thinks fishing's more important than electronics? Anyway, apparently Evan sticks his hand up and says, that's me. That guy sounds like he's got his priorities right. So that's how I met Evan Duryea, at uni, not being in the lab. To this day, he will tell you all, if he was here, that that's exactly how the balance still stands now. Him in the lab working his arse off, and me fishing and playing golf. It's just not true. It's just not true. If you wind it forward a couple of years from there, we had the opportunity Evan and I and a couple of other guys, while we were at uni, to go out and work in the marketplace. And, you know, as young guys, we hadn't experienced yet what it was like to go out and work like that in our field, and we jumped on it. So here was this opportunity to go out, get a sort of like a real job, contracting. It was obviously going to mean a whole lot less time fishing or less time at uni, whichever I chose. And so we jumped on this opportunity, and there was a few of us that did it. And that was actually how we recognised, I guess, a need in the marketplace to start Thomas Duryea. So we were working out really quickly and simply. I'm standing between you guys and Ivy. Really, we were working in the marketplace for these guys who are now our competitors, and we were, you know, we were being sold in on these projects as, you know, there was amazing automation and the technology was incredible. And here we were, the uni students, in the warehouse, running like rodents on the treadmill, installing all this crap manually, thinking, shit, bullshit, this is automated. This is not automated. And second to that, these guys, as we started to go out and meet their customers, the customers were telling us that the bigger companies were just trying to track the spend, the cyclical spend in the customer sites. So they'd come every 3 years when it was about time for a hardware refresh, and they'd be like, we love you, this is, you know, we always have really loved you, but we were elsewhere, but now we love you again. And so for those two, I guess, needs or lacks that we saw in the marketplace, we stepped back, and in our naivety as uni students, we went, hang on, we can do something here. We can create a business that truly delivers the technical excellence. We've done it. We used to write the software at uni. And I reckon we can build relationships for life. We can actually, you know, meet these people, build this relationship, and love them like a friend, if you like, for life, rather than a cyclical 3-year thing. And so on that foundation, those two core values, we built TD. And I'll talk about it later, but if we, you know, the core values in your business, and I think you've heard it quite a few times today, you have to know what they are, and you have to live them. For every person that we hire, for everything that we do, we try to inject those core values. If someone walks in the door, you know, to be hired, and they might be the most skillful guy in the world, but if they don't fit the attitude, if they don't fit the culture, then we absolutely won't take them on board. And that's been the key for so long for our success. So we started the business. We went along, and it was probably, I don't know, a couple of years later. You know, we had been winning clients, building trust and the like, you know, really leaning on those core values. I got a phone call. I think it was a Tuesday morning. I got this phone call, and I'll talk about it. I think there's no reason why not. It was Hayden from Cadbury Schweppes that rang me, and I had been working for a year to build a relationship with a guy that worked in Cadbury. And anyway, I get this phone call from Hayden, and he says, "Hi, I'm Hayden. I have a trusted colleague of mine has said that he trusts you and he believes you can do, you know, some things that we need right now." And I'm jumping off my chair going, holy shit, he's going to ask me to do some work for Cadbury. I love chocolate. And anyway, so he says, can you do these things? Yes. Can you come out and see me? Yes, I probably was already out the door actually walking there. And I say yes, and he says, can you come today? I said, no worries. I jumped in the car and I went out there and I met with him, and we got along well. We built very quick rapport. And he says, so we've got this project, Cadbury's bought this business. I know that you can join businesses together from a technology perspective, do the IT bit. But I didn't really tell IT till the last minute, so we need to get going pretty soon, like Thursday. Shit, I've just made all these other promises to customers. Thankfully out my mouth comes, yeah, no worries, not a problem. And he says, in Japan. And no word of a lie, I was in Tokyo on Thursday. No word of a lie, I got on a plane the next day and flew to Tokyo. And so it went. And I don't know, I could go on for hours about the stupid stories of living and working in Japan, but I won't. There's too many to mention. But so we went along, we did that project. Things started to go really well for us, of course. We've got an incredible name like Cadbury on the books. All the staff now had free chocolate in the office, and they did come in one day and say, you're not allowed to have any of the competing brands. And they're like, what about Coke? Jeez. Anyway, so things were going well for us, and we started to move forward as a business. We're still only very small, the sort of the back blocks of Richmond down in Melbourne. And it was, I don't know, maybe a few months later, a year later, still working with Cadbury. We had done a whole lot of great work with Cadbury that went on to other projects. we recognised another opportunity in the market, if you like. We had got onto this piece of software written by VMware, and I don't know how many of you guys know VMware. It's a US company that many years ago, with this tiny little company, they'd written a bit of software. Anyway, a few of our guys reckon it was revolutionary, and I don't know, a lot of software companies reckon their software's revolutionary, it's going to change the world. We looked at this piece of software and we reckoned it could. We reckoned it could actually make a difference to our customers, to the people that we've been speaking to. And so we went out to a couple of our customers. He said, hey, you trust us. We've built a relationship for a long time. You know, we wouldn't tell you something that wasn't true, whatever. We think this software can make a difference for you. So we introduce it to them, we implement it, and it does what we promised. This piece of software did what we thought it would do. It met the market need. It delivered on, you know, the investment that they were going to make, and all the ROI and all those good numbers happened for that customer. And so we went along to the next customer and said, hey, we just did this over here. Can we talk to you about it? And what happened was we started to see some success there. We started to win those customers over, and we thought, this is great. Let's get VMware into the room. VMware had 2 employees at the time. One of them comes into the room, the number 2 employee in Australia, sits down. He's looking around. We had a little office in Richmond. It was like a garage. He's wondering where the rest of the office is. It's not there. And we say, we can do this. We can be your next big partner. And anyway, he says, oh, we're kind of thinking maybe HP or IBM or whoever it is would be the next partner. So thanks for your time. Anyway, we just go ahead anyway, and we just say, bugger it, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to just go and install it. And we started to go and sell it, And a couple of lessons here, I think, that we learned. This was amazingly complex software. It meant picking up every single file, every piece of data in all of these customer sites, picking it up, sort of shaking it around a bit and putting it back down over here. It was high risk, it was complex, it was concepts and paradigm shifts that you had to take the customers through. We found that it worked for some customers where we knew them and we could, they had the relationship with us and that sort of thing, but the conversation wasn't working when we would need to go and talk to a new customer. So hang on, we have to change this. So lesson here, taking something that's complex and making it simple. And I reckon we were good at it, right? We did it well, but we took hundreds of hours in the office on the whiteboard trying to make this conversation simple, to the point where when we would go out to see a customer, we could take them on this whiteboard journey from where they are now, all the pain points, right through to this new world of amazement. And sometimes we thought it was almost theatre, we'd practiced it that much, but the customer came along on the journey with us, and what was in the past, concepts to understand, paradigm shifts, complexities, risks in their environment, the way that we were able to take them through that conversation on that whiteboard meant we built trust, we improved our credentials, and we moved to the next stage with all those customers. And I don't know who's read Benioff's book, Behind the Cloud. Anyway, none. Read it, it's unreal. Anyway, he talks about how he built Salesforce and all of the tips and tricks in there, and he just goes and tells you, so you should read it. It's a very, very good book to read. It turns out we were doing very much what he has done to build Salesforce. We took something that was incredibly complex and made it so simple for our customers to understand. I mean, CRM used to, millions and millions of dollars would be spent on building a CRM, take years to sort of decide, blah, blah, blah. Same thing for us. This was so complex. We took them through this journey and made it simple for the customers. Next step to that was how to scale. So we're still a $3 million business. Now we've worked out we've got a pitch. Now we've worked out that we can go and introduce ourselves to new customers. We're like, shit, we just need to tell a whole lot more of them. How are we going to do this? So again, we get back in the office, we do all these planning sessions, and we started to create these days we called Blitz Days. And we would get all of the VMware guys, all of our other partners in the room, all of our sales guys. We'd line up all the phones, get a leaderboard up there, we'd give them all Red Bull and lollies and that sort of thing, and we would build it to fever pitch. We would literally be all about the passion, all about the energy, and be like, get on the phone and go. And with that momentum, with that passion and the energy in the room, the best we ever did was 54 new customer appointments in one morning. The conversion for us, because of the pitch, was extraordinarily high, and the average deal size at the time was about 250 grand. So it was like we had to get all the relationships right, we had to get the pitch right, the build of the technology right, and then when all of a sudden we locked this in with how do we call down, how do we get in front of these people? And it was creating that momentum in the back of the company and making, and you know, that can apply to almost anything we're all sort of doing there. You know, it just went bananas for us, right? So we could book 54 appointments in a morning, and we had this first mover advantage, like sort of IBM and HP and all those guys sort of sitting there going, fuck, what happened? What? Of course, Nick Vince was the guy that came in from VMware, employee number 2, I think, and he still to this day says, I built the TD brand and I was the guy that introduced VM. Anyway, so we won't hang him out too much on that. But anyway, so what that did for us, that allowed us to go from 3 million to 30 million as a business over a 24-month period. We at one stretch there hired, keep in mind we started with sort of 10 people, we hired 50 people in 50 weeks. And these are all like 120 grand sort of guys. So we were ramping this thing pretty hard. You know, and so we achieved VMware's Partner of the Year. We cranked out the BRW awards and a whole lot of other industry awards through that time. And that was all that was a whole lot of measurable successes that we're having very, very quickly. And so I want to try and highlight, I think, maybe 4 areas. I don't know how we're going for time here, but I want to try and highlight 4 areas that I think that were crucial to us that if we didn't do, we wouldn't have been able to take the business from there to there. Sure, we would have had the sales and all that sort of stuff, but it would have just folded in on itself. You know, it would have imploded, something would have given up. And so there's probably four areas. The first is functionalising the business or systemising the business. The second is getting leverage inside the business. And the third is building culture. We had to hire all these people. I used to be able to go and sit around a table and talk to everyone about my values. You know, as you get bigger and bigger, you need other people to be able to do that. You need to be able to control and manage the culture and have it grow of its own accord. And the fourth is find money. So we were profitable through this time, but we had to find money because we wanted to go ahead of the curve. You know, you send an invoice to some of these Cadbury type people, they don't feel like paying it necessarily for 90 days, but we're already over here doing the next project and the next project. So firstly, functionalising the business. So, you know, you hear it over and over again, get systems, get all that sort of stuff, but I will tell you, as a flat structure when we were 8 people and whatever it was, 10 people, the shift in mindset to go from that to saying, okay, I need to functionalise the business was extraordinary for us. So we sat back one weekend literally and looked at the business and said, what are all the tasks that have to happen across this business to make it successful? Literally down to, I don't know, bloody almost receive the mail, right? So it was everything from one end of the business with sales. So we wanted to create this engine at the front. So we grouped all the tasks together that were sales. We thought, right, what's next? Okay, you get the purchase order, comes in, and it's delivery and it's operations and it's all the engineers and that sort of thing. So we grouped all of those sort of tasks together. By the way, what we did there was we grouped those tasks into black, blue, and red. Black were strategic tasks, blue were delivery and money-making tasks and that sort of thing, and red were admin tasks. The shit that you do that doesn't make you any money. So we had black tasks, blue tasks, and red tasks against sales, against operations and delivery, and then over here in admin and in finance and finance. I'll give you a good example. I was in Cadbury in Japan, Tokyo, and I get this phone call from Mike, one of the other partners, not listed on the board, and he says, hey, Andrew. I'm like, yeah, he's probably going to ring me and say how well everything's going, all that sort of stuff. He says, we got no money. I'm like, nah, come on. We got Cadbury as a customer. We're doing fantastically. It's all going well. We're winning new customers, blah, blah. He says, no. I know that, but there's no money in the bank. All right, no worries. So I come back, you know, we was going backwards and forwards, and we're in on the weekend, and we are searching through admin desks, looking around, trying to find what we might have missed in this little business that we had that would sort of tell us what we didn't have any controls, no processes at the time. And I still remember sitting at this little table, our boardroom table that we called it at the time, and I can see Micah out the corner of my eye, and he's rifling through this admin girl's desk. I don't know if she tells this, if she knows I tell this story to this day, but he's rifling around, nothing there, and he opens this drawer, and it almost explodes out with paperwork, right? I didn't know what it was yet at the time, and so Micah grabs this drawer out, he brings it over to this little boardroom table, and he tips it upside down, like a pile, and we start looking through this, and it was supplier invoices, engineers' timesheets, it was everything that had come in one end of the business as a cost that didn't go out the other end as an invoice. Everything. There was $1 million worth of invoicing in the drawer. This poor girl we'd hired, no induction, no processes, no systems, nothing, would have been sitting there going, I don't know what to do with this one either. So we only find out when there's no money in the bank. So when I talk about, she still works with us to this day. She's one of the longest standing employees. I don't know why. Because we love them. So where was I? So what functionalising the business did for us was it allowed us to identify all of these tasks that had to happen across all the other areas. Right? And you know, when you get all those tasks out, you set them into the different areas, and then you put some success measurements or KPIs or whatever over the top of that, and then you start to think, hey, they're my leading indicators on this side of the business and my lagging indicators on this side of the business. You can actually measure what the hell's going on, and you would have known way back here when no invoices went out to the customer from poor little Angela's desk that something was wrong in the process. So that was the first step, functionalising the business. Second step was getting leverage. Okay, so we've started to get all these functions together. Sales was over here, delivery, and that conceptually as a business. We had to get leverage. We had to put people into the business that could go and take those functions and that were better than us at it and run with it. And when you get leverage, when you get a good person, I don't know, for me, I had never had leverage. I didn't understand what it meant. We've been running a business for a while. It's a flat structure. We all just did whatever we could. For me, it was an absolute watershed moment to bring in this guy, the first guy that ran my sales team. He was shitloads better than me at selling. He was brilliant at running a sales team. I didn't have a clue how to run a sales team. So I could step back now and say, all right, I've got all the success measurements there. Josh, you go and run that. And he did. And so that thing just took off like a rocket because it had the right person in there that was just running it, and it gave me leverage. And we did that across ops, delivery, and we did it across finance and admin. They're all red tasks over there, by the way. And then we did it out over HR. So we had the whole business, and then we got leverage across every single area of the business to let it really go forward. From there, so that's functionalising it, getting leverage. The third point is about people and culture. That has absolutely been the magic. That has absolutely been the magic of our business over the years. We built the business on two core values, and they were relationships and people and the technology. And you had to be passionate about it to want to come and work with us, and you still do, right? And I can talk all day. I'm not going to get in the way of the ivy again, but 15. I thought it was going up for a second. It's going down. But when we got that right, when we started to understand what culture meant to our business, it wasn't, okay, you need to come in and you need to look like this and do that. We started to get these teams of people within our business that would just grow almost of their own accord. We structured the business in such a way that all the people that were passionate about a certain type of technology or whatever it was, you know, as a set would work together, and you would come in and these guys would be on the whiteboard at night or in the morning on a weekend, and they'd be all like, I can do this better than you, and they'd be learning from each other, and it'd be just challenge, response, passion, and it'd go from, you know, and they'd get in front of the customer and they'd be exactly the same way. They'd be passionate about it. And the customer's like, fuck, I've heard from IBM, I've heard from fucking Dell, I've heard from HP today. It's good to have someone with a bit of energy in the room that actually loves what they're doing. And that flowed through the whole business for us. Absolutely flowed. To the point where those guys would be like, I'll ring my mate, I reckon he should come and work with us. So how's our recruiting going then, when all of a sudden the people inside the business are saying, you want to come and work here, you do want to come and work here. And so, you know, for us, you know, and you would ask anyone in the business at the moment, you know, and I do, why you're here, you know, what do you like about TD and that sort of thing. And I'd expect them to say incredibly visionary CEO and all that sort of fucking never has anyone said that. They talk about their peers. No, don't talk about management, don't talk about the execs, whatever. They talk about coming to work at TD because of the person that's standing beside them. And I shit you not, that is exactly what we want, right? So we keep that culture growing, and it just starts to grow and evolve on its own accord. Finally, of those four that were crucial to us, we had to find money. And we talk about it here, and I think Jack and the boys run some good programs and that sort of thing, but I'll try to talk, I guess, just quickly, just for maybe 5 areas that are my experience that I've had that I can talk to firsthand around how to find money, and I'll race through them because I think we're sort of moving on now. The first is leasing, right? And it's boring and it's mundane and whatever, but the first for me as a form of financing is leasing. So for me, you've got to prioritise your dollar. You've got to make your dollar go further. So if I've got $1 to spend, do I buy a laptop? And it's not $1, whatever, 1,000. Or do I spend that dollar on hiring a new staff member or doing marketing or doing sales or something at the front of the business if I can take that laptop and finance it across its lifetime, right? So we won't cash out for things like laptops or anything like that because leasing is easy finance. We can get it, we can rent it if we have to, and then we'll take every one of those dollars and put it into the front end of the business instead. Simple one, but it's one that's, I don't know, you should be doing it if you're growing a business. The second one is perhaps more obscure. The second one is vendor financing. I think that's a term that's come from maybe property, and you'd buy a house off someone and you'd say, well, you've got all this money, why don't I just pay you over time? Why not go to the bank? For us, it's about win-win. So we're selling a whole lot of vendors' products, we're partnering with a whole lot of vendors. There's all these strategic relationships that we've set up. And sometimes we want to do things with these products before we've sold them on, so build something back, like a cloud. So we built a cloud and that sort of thing. And I went to these vendors and I said, hang on a minute, we haven't monetized what you're trying to sell. I'm not your customer. Your customers are out there. What about if we could come to some agreement where you seed this equipment into my business, under some agreement where we'll mirror my success back to you for the payments. I'll keep buying your stuff if I'm successful on the front end, bringing clients onto it. And I tell you, you would be surprised about what you can get if you just ask. So way back when, we'd be like, oh my God, a new storage array, these things are $250,000, whatever it is. And you'd think there's no way that we can put it in even to test it for our engineers and that sort of thing. We just pick up the phone and the vendors be like, yep, no worries, of course. Because if you get good at it or whatever, it's in there and that sort of thing, you're just going to sell heaps more of my stuff. So vendor financing or creating or finding those win-win relationships or whatever, it's really key. And just have the balls, there's a real mix of audience here, but just pick up the phone and ask. And honestly, you'd be surprised about what you can get. Fourth, and this one's far more maybe mainstream for this audience, just raising cash in return for equity. So there's a lot of the guys have talked about this, so I don't want to go into too much detail around it, except to say obviously that it's very, very relevant. It's simply obviously understanding how much of your company you want to give away for some cash. One thing I'd say, try and find a true strategic investor. If you're going to have someone that's absolutely breathing down your neck because you've got their money, you might as well have someone that's actually going to provide some value around that. So find a strategic, if you're going to give away shares for cash, find someone that's going to absolutely add value back into your business for that. And remember, when we did it here, we did the pitching, you're pitching yourself. When you stand up in front of that venture capitalist, for all of the great ideas that you've got, there are tons of ideas out there that VC guys have backed that in the company over the first year have flipped out to be something completely different. The VC guy's like, no worries, I'm making a whole lot more money anyway. But it's because the founder or the guy that they've backed in has been the right guy. So when you're standing in front of them, just know your stuff. Absolutely. Do not be reading off your presentation. You've got one shot at this for like 10 minutes or whatever. Don't sit there and read the stuff that you've put on your own slide deck to the guy. You got to just know it, know your business model. And yeah, if you can get a grey-haired guy in the room beside you to do some of that for you, do that as well. Just final one, convertible notes. I'm seeing heaps, I don't know if anyone else is, and I don't know who's in the VC market and who's not, but I'm seeing a lot more convertible notes being written at the moment. And I've had some dealings with those. I don't know from you. Anyway, I don't want it's not financial advice, but a convertible note essentially is a combination of debt and equity. So you're taking a loan as the business owner or founder. You're taking a loan from a guy who, in return, you're giving an option to buy shares at a period of time. So what happens there is if the guy doesn't want to buy the shares in the period of time, he says, give me my money back. So you have to be very careful with these because there's a lot of caveats and there's a lot of downside, but what it does is it exposes you to, I guess, the investor has a can potentially have a bit more of a risk appetite because he's going to go after you for the debt. When someone puts money into your business as equity raising, the money goes in, the shares come out. If that business goes to nothing, the VC guy knows his money's gone, it's evaporated. There's no guarantees on any of that. But if he goes in with a convertible note and says, well, it's a loan, if you go well, I'm going to convert it. He's covered his downside risk and he's maximised his upside. So I would say it's potentially more risky, but it's what I'm seeing a lot more of, and it opens you up to guys in the market that are going to assess you probably for two different reasons. But anyway, I'd just say assess it for its two different reasons, debt and equity, and be comfortable with both sides. Anyway, so they're the lessons. I think I'm running out of time to go into too much more detail. All right, so we've done all that, and I've been very fortunate to have the opportunity to build a number of other businesses, along the way, and get involved, like funding a couple of other businesses. And at one stage, I started a beauty salon thing. That was a fucking disaster. So I've had some crackers in there. I shaved my own head. I was not the guy that should have been starting a beauty salon. Anyway, so there's a couple of things. So I get to surround myself with amazing people all the time. But at the same time, I'm asked to give a lot of sort of, mentoring or advice back. I've got GMs and CEOs and, senior leaders in the business and that sort of thing. And I'm asked to give a lot of advice back, and there's a few things that sort of keep coming back up for me as a repetitive sort of request and that sort of thing. First, I'd say, is mentoring. And I'm going to group it with, leading a life of learning. And the guys, you're all here because you're interested to learn. One of the best ways that I think to learn quickly is to find someone that already knows it or that has the traits that you want to copy, and especially if it's stuff about you, not necessarily pick up a book or whatever to say, but if you find someone that presents well, if you find someone that does something well, or someone that's done something you want to do, the best way is just to pick up the phone and say, hey, you did that really, really well. Can you just spend 10 minutes telling me how you did that? And again, you'd be surprised. People say yes. Especially people love talking about themselves, right? So pick up the phone and say, hey, you're unreal. Can I? But absolutely find good mentors. Absolutely go out there and find people. And to do that, okay, quickly, you need to know yourself. You got to get self-aware. So if you're looking around for trying to take on traits and that sort of thing, first thing you got to do is start to work out who you are as a person. And then you've got to build a bit of empathy, cultivate some empathy if it doesn't come naturally to you, so you can look and you can understand other people. And so when you're sitting with them and you're looking, okay, this is me and that's him, I want to add this, this and this. Where are you starting from? So, know yourself, become self-aware and cultivate that empathy so that you can sit in front of someone else, understand where they're at, and start to take on some of the traits that they exhibit that you want and that sort of thing, and learn from them far more quickly. Goal setting, give one good example of apparently I'm setting shit low goals, but it's key. It's absolutely key. And you stand up here and do your VC pitch or whatever it is, you've got to have your goals, and they might as well be big goals. I had breakfast the other morning with Tom Mendoza, and he's the vice chairman of NetApp. I don't know, anyway, for the IT guys. They're a big company now. They do something like 7 billion or something like that now. Breakfast with him the other morning, and he's sitting there, and he loves to tell a story and a whole lot of rude jokes, but anyway, he was there from the start, right, NetApp, and he tells me this story. He says, Andrew, I was in this planning session, we were doing $40 million a year, and we thought we were heroes, planning and all that sort of stuff. I go out to the toilet. He says, I go out for a pee. I'm out for 5 minutes. I come back into the room, and the boys have written $1 billion on the book, and they're all pumped up. They're going, Tom, we're going to make $1 billion. He's like, fuck. And we're going to do it. It just means we're going to double and double again and double. All we have to do is double 5 times in a row. And he's like, fuck. Anyway, right, when he first come across that goal, he's like, you're just going to sack me for not getting it. Anyway, the fact is they set that goal and they smashed that goal out of the water, and they're like 7 billion and growing now. And he says to me, he just says, set yourself a big goal. Shit, the worst thing you can do is go close to it. So, that's it, right? So, last one. Hard work. you hear people say, work smart, not hard. Fucking hell. Nobody that's been successful that's ever sat in front of me and said, just work smart, not hard. Everyone I know that is successful has worked their ring off. And they've worked... I've got 0. Okay, time's up. Everyone I know has worked smart and they have worked hard together. You're up against a whole lot of other people out there, right? Everything we're doing, every idea we take to market is in competition, right? So there's guys out there that are working their rings off and they're working smart. So if you think you're just going to go and work smart, I would say work hard and work hard with discipline around how you're doing that. Anyway, I think that's my time up. So I just want to say enjoy your journey. It should be a whole lot of fun. Thank you very much for listening to me.